Hello, I'm Jennelise Hafen.
And I'm Hilary Holley.
We both work in adult services at Oceanside Public Library, and today we're going to tell you about a program we recently started specifically for adults with developmental disabilities called Library Club. We offer it once a week, it's an hour long, and we rotate crafts, games, and other activities. We were surprised at how popular it became, how easy it was to start, and we're ready to share that with you. When we started our programming, we started from scratch. So we want to provide a super informal blueprint for you to be able to start a similar program at your library. We first saw the opportunity to have a program geared specifically to this population from a patron that came into the library. Natalie had just moved to the area and was looking for a free space to interact with other members of the community. She literally asked us if there was a place where she could play games with members of the community. We had also noticed that a lot of groups of adults used our other library services, and though we were all friendly in our library, and everyone is welcome in every program, there are no programs designed specifically to provide impactful services to this specific population. And as librarians, we knew we had a responsibility to ensure the best possible service to this underserved group, and the best way we could see to do this was by creating programming geared specifically to the individuals asking for it.
We also heard from a lot of local organizations that were working with this demographic that there are not a lot of outside groups doing outreach or specific programming for them. So that really surprised us, and it definitely reiterated that there's a need for this kind of program in our community. And so we started with one weekly program and have since grown into doing 3 simultaneous programs, serving 60 plus unique participants each month.
And these are just some pictures of some of the participants who have been coming to our program for the past year. And we just wanted to show how much fun people have and how needed the program is.
So today we're going to talk about the challenges and opportunities that come with creating a program like this, as well as what has worked for us and how we have adapted the things that didn't work so that they could be more successful. We're also going to share our experience with Next Chapter Book Club and give you some basic steps for how to start a library or a club at your library. We want to talk a little bit about the definition of developmental disabilities because there is such a range, and in developing a program like this, we wanted to be conscious about including as many people as possible, but also being realistic about what kind of services that we're actually capable of providing. So officially, the term developmental disability refers to severe and chronic disability that is attributable to mental or physical impairment that begins before an individual reaches adulthood. These disabilities include intellectual disabilities, cerebral palsy, epilepsy, autism, and disabling conditions closely related to intellectual disability or requiring similar treatment. That being said, we are a public library, and our program does not receive any funding that's contingent on that definition, so any adult that identifies as having an intellectual or developmental disability is welcome at our program.
Just some quick numbers to emphasize the need for programming geared towards adults. According to the Center for Disease Control and Prevention, in 2004, 1 in 1,000 children were diagnosed on the autism spectrum, and in 2010, the numbers went up to 1 in 100. A lot of these children are now adults, and the number is just getting bigger, so it's just going to grow as the population continues to age, further demonstrating the need for this type of programming.
We wanted to talk about some of the challenges that we've encountered first to give you an idea of what to expect with a program like this. I would say there's been more positive things than negative things, but occasionally challenges do come up. One of our challenges is managing personalities and making sure that everyone remembers Library Club is a space where everyone's welcome and we're all here to do something together. In one of our programs, we have a big group of people who all know each other from a group program they do together outside the library. And the upside to that is that there's already a sense of camaraderie among the group, and they all have a lot of fun together. But it can sometimes add an extra layer of drama because sometimes someone can feel left out, or there's a friend group that's not willing to branch out and meet new people. But what I found helpful is to break into small groups to avoid one person being left out. And it's also been helpful to do an icebreaker activity at the beginning of each session where everyone introduces themselves, because that sets the tone that it's a group activity and we're all here to meet each other and do something together. Sometimes there will still be people who don't get along and behavior issues will come up, but I think a big solution for that, and some of the other issues too, is that some of our patrons attending the program just have to be accompanied by a caretaker or group leader. In some of our local programs, they call their group leader their coach, and a lot of times their coach will be the person who brings them to the program and who will stay and hang out during it. That's been a big help because having such a variety of personalities and capabilities, the extra support goes a long way. We suggest a ratio of 1 coach or librarian to 4 to 5 participants in a program. We also put a note on our promotional flyer mentioning that the participants in need of supervision should be accompanied by a caregiver. So that's been helpful as well. We've come to work pretty closely with some of the coaches who come to the program, and we rely on their input for planning programs and are really appreciative of their support. So that's a great resource to know that you probably have in your communities as well.
Another issue that we have to address is behavior and difference in ability levels. At each location, we have a room reserved for library programs, and noise and activity can be seen and heard from the rest of the library. So we and coaches are always able to remind participants that we're still in a library and we need to follow library rules. We also like to emphasize that it's a choice that each individual has to be in library club. With some of the groups that come in, about half of them come to library club and the rest use other library services. Like Hilary said, there's a note on the promotional flyers that if a caretaker is needed, they must accompany the participant in library club. At that point, we're asking members and their coaches to self-select, and if they think they need somebody with them, they will bring them. I think giving the individuals the power to make that decision and making sure that participants know they have a choice to come to library club helps a lot with behavior. We also try to be very open and get to know each individual on a pretty good level. And so making sure that everybody who comes to the program knows that they can talk to us and we have open communication with the participants helps a lot with behavior. In my experience, when something is happening that might become an issue, just immediately letting the person know that what they're doing is inappropriate usually stops the behavior. Another challenge we see is varying abilities. We have learned to give instructions, one instruction at a time, say the same thing in different ways, and be flexible. This can mean that we explain how to complete a task, show a picture of the completed task, and model how to complete a task. Being flexible means knowing that not everyone is going to be able to do the same task. So we try to be prepared by having a lot of options with the same materials. When we have Legos out, we have Mega Blocks and Kiva planks out. So even if there are dexterity or other challenges, there is still something for everyone. As we get more familiar with the adults who participate, we know the ability level of each person, and it becomes easier to tailor activities for different abilities. But when we talk about how we change some things, we'll get more into specifics. Just knowing that what you planned is never going to go how you think, and being open and flexible and ready to think on the fly helps a lot.
Okay, so we want to share some things that have really worked for our groups. Even between the 3 programs we do, some things work and don't work for each of the different groups. So I think that when implementing a program for adults with developmental disabilities, it really is about trial and error and, like Jennelise said, staying flexible and just being prepared to change what doesn't work into something that can work. One thing that's been great is playing games. Games were the basis of why we started Library Club. Natalie actually asked specifically for a program where everyone could play bingo together. So that's what we started with. Bingo is a big success. It still is. We make sure to find prizes to give to the winners, usually leftover summer reading prizes or other library swag that we have around. So it's a very low cost program. And a lot of times we play until everyone is a winner so no one feels left out. Other games that are popular are Uno, the match card game, Jenga, dominoes, and puzzles with big pieces. Things that are tactile have been really popular because we do have some participants with impaired vision, so they're still able to do things or feel things in their hands. We borrow almost all our games from our wonderful teen department and children's department, so the cost for games has been pretty low as a whole. I think we've spent $10 on a few Uno decks, but that's it. Our teen department also has a green screen, which we've borrowed, and that was a lot of fun as well. Everyone liked getting their picture taken, and it was a great way to get the participants to work together and to practice using technology. Our goal with all the crafts and games is getting our participants to use problem solving and build confidence and work together. Because we can have over 20 people at a program, what we generally do is set up 3 tables for 6 to 8 people and 3 game stations. After 20 minutes, we have the group switch to the next station, and that way everyone gets to play each game, and it's a shorter time for everyone to stay engaged and focused on one thing. We do the same with our craft sessions as well.
We have been able to do some really fun crafts for next to nothing because most, if not all, of our materials come from our really great youth department. We spend a lot of time with the idea of I Spy or sensory bottles, and I'll talk about that a little bit more. But for that, we just used empty water bottles. We took some different objects from our youth department, a handful of buttons, some feathers, beads, pom-poms, confetti. And we've also done something where we do free drawing, where we grab a bunch of books from the library, drawing books. And some people want to work independently. They've done them before. And some people want to work in a group and all draw the same thing. And so we go through instructions on how to do that. And the only materials those days are books from the library, paper, and colored pencils. In April, we really wanted to do something with poetry, so we printed out a bunch of words in bright colors, and everyone made poetry ribbons. They cut out words and glued the words onto a ribbon in any order they wanted. The materials that day were printed paper, a fat roll of ribbon, silly scissors, glue sticks, and stickers. All of these activities work well with varying levels. With the poetry ribbons, some people worked hard knowing what words would sound good together, and some people worked more with the colors. One person even just cut out the letters to their name and glued that to the ribbon. So it was something that worked for everyone. But when we do crafts, we always have a couple of things out just in case there's an activity that someone doesn't want to participate in. We always have colored pencils and coloring sheets, and those are usually used by individuals who want their own space that day. So the I Spy sensory bottles, if you guys have never made them, they're super easy to do. We set up a mat with all of the activities that were going to be put in the bottle, and I labeled everything on the mat, and that was groups of like 4 or 5 people shared that space, and then they wrote down everything that they were putting into the bottle on these little tags. Put the objects in the bottle. I had pre-filled them with glitter. I filled it up with water and gave them back, and they were able to exchange the bottles together. Being able to work on their writing was something that was kind of cool to put in there too, because we are a library.
Okay, so there have been some things that we tried to make work that we really wanted to work but just didn't, and some of those things we were able to change so that they were a little bit more successful. One thing that didn't work was doing origami. We thought it was going to be a great craft idea, but it turns out you need at least one person that knows how to do origami for it to be a success. I had a book that I brought of ideas, but a lot of them were really hard, and there was definitely some disappointment when we couldn't figure out how to make some of the things that they wanted to. But I think if you're able to have an origami master there to help people with their creations, it can be successful. I think if you can figure out how to make one thing, like a paper crane, and then everyone makes that one thing together, that can make it a successful program. Origami is a tough one for varying skill levels, so that's something to be conscious of as well. But it can work, I think, in the right environment, but not for us. That one was a fail. Another thing that didn't work was the game's categories. It's a game that one of our regulars requested we play, but it was just too advanced for most of the rest of the group. So we modified it, and we made it a Pictionary categories hybrid, which was a little more accessible for the group. We also made our own categories of things that we knew the group was interested in, like Disney movies and superheroes. And making the small changes to that game made it a much bigger success, and it was cool to see the group take ownership of the new game that we had all made together. And that was one of the best library club sessions that we had. So definitely don't be afraid to get creative and break the rules.
We have also learned a lot about adapting more. At one of our first library club meetings, we thought it would be fun to help people look up their birth dates on the microfilm machine. It wasn't. Only a couple of participants had any interest in looking it up at all, and the couple that did got overwhelmed with the amount of text scrolling by. And only 1 or 2 people could use the machine at once. It didn't hold attention, and we learned that when there's 20 people ready for an activity, we need to make sure it's something that everyone can participate in and that there are enough resources for everyone. Building challenges have always been one of my favorite activities because all it takes is Legos and letting people get creative. But it did take a little trial and error to get to that point with this group. When we first brought the Legos to Library Club, I only brought the big box of regular size Legos. All the pieces and colors were mixed up, but a lot of individuals didn't participate. So the next time, we worked on adapting the activity to more ability levels. Legos separated by color are popular. I'm not sure if it's the novelty of the separated colors or that they're just less overwhelming, which is the case for me. But a lot of our participants prefer to use the single color sets. There are also people not participating because Legos were too small for their motor function abilities. So we've incorporated Mega Blocks and Kiva Planks, and those have both proven possible. we have challenges for people to build, write their name, build a building, make an animal, make a shape. And everyone is able to participate with blocks suited to their interest and ability. We also have a marble maze that one of our librarians donated, and I really like that a lot. So if you guys have any marble mazes, bring that. It's fun to watch trial and error in action. So remembering to stay flexible and willing to adapt the activities and being able to drop an activity that doesn't work has proven to be helpful. And again, the coaches have been super amazing at helping with that on the fly. Another activity we failed at was book club. After working with crafts and games for so long, we wanted to spend a day reading with the group. Our method was to bring a bunch of books out, and participants would, of course, read, or we would read to them. It didn't work like that at all. A lot of people didn't want to participate, and with a big group, it came back to limited resources and choice to be in the program. So when we were looking for ideas about how to make it work, we came across Next Chapter Book Club, an organization based in Ohio that specializes in starting book clubs for adults with intellectual and developmental disabilities, and they have a blueprint for how to start one. With Next Chapter Book Club, their motto is read to learn, not learn to read. Clubs meet for 1-hour sessions in public places. Members socialize and take turns reading aloud and discussing the book with guidance from facilitators. There's a minimum of 4 members and a maximum of 8, and there's 2 trained facilitators present at every meeting.
If you want to start a Next Chapter Book Club at your library, you can visit their website for more information. It's nextchapterbookclub.org.
So now I know you guys really want to start a program, and your question is, how can I start a program at my library? First, I'd recommend talking to people who you see using the library. See if having a program is something that they would be interested in and if they would attend. Collaborate with local group leaders or coaches because they are familiar with local organizations and programs. That buy-in from coaches has been super helpful to us. And also check to see what days and times would work for people who are already using your space. If there's not individuals or groups using your library, make sure they know about the library and how much you would love to have them. The California Department of Developmental Disabilities is a really great resource if you guys aren't familiar with it. That's our website. And if you go to there, there's a link for the regional offices. And from the regional offices, you can download a list of service providers in your area. And that's an Excel spreadsheet, so you can sort it by location. And then for Library Club, we called everybody who was listed as Activity Center or Adult Developmental Center. Since the organization's names are there, you can also find their websites and send emails with flyers and press releases to all of those organizations.
I think the last thing we just want to say is that it's important to think about the space for where you want to do Library Club or your version of Library Club. I know it's not always possible to be picky about space options in a library setting, but we've found that doing Library Club in a place that's a little bit more public has been really beneficial. Library Club's not something we want to keep behind closed doors, but something that we do want to celebrate and integrate into everything that's already happening in our library. Hosting the club in a visible space not only makes the participants feel like they are part of the larger community that comes to the library, but it also allows the rest of the library to see this part of their community too. So I think that's just something to think about.
But we do want to say to do it. It's super rewarding. It's really fun.
It's really
every
easy.
week, it's really easy.
Yeah.
And every week, it's really fun to have a positive impact in people's lives. So
Yeah.
if you guys have any questions, I'm Jennelise. And
I'm Hilary.
questions? Sorry.
Hi. So I'm from Riverside, and we are fortunate enough to have a couple of groups to come into our libraries. And we've already talked to the coaches, and they are excited about new programming. The question is, how do we get, or do you have any suggestions on how to get our administrative team or supervisors on board to allow us to provide these programs? I know there might be a little hesitation because they don't know how to approach it, but is there any suggestions that you guys can give?
Yeah, I mean, I think we've been lucky that we've had a lot of support in our library from administration and our supervisors, but I think talking about it like it's a collaboration or a community collaboration is helpful because I think that takes a lot of the burden off you. I mean, you're still doing a lot, but just knowing that you're in it with another organization or there's going to be another organization there to guide you might be helpful. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. We were supposed to repeat the question. So he asked how you get buy-in from staff.
Thank you.
Somebody else had a question. Yes.
One of you guys called me, I think.
Oh, yeah, that was me.
I'm in Antioch, and we've had a program for quite a while. Kathy Middleton, who is a speaker here, she's currently with Sacramento, got a grant, and we got some equipment, and we started a group called the Insiders Club. And it's been very successful. When you called me, I was brand new to the librarian position, so I hadn't had any, hadn't had any programs yet. I'm 3 months in, and I feel like an expert now. And I would just like to share with you a story. My big thing is getting the community involved, doing outreach, but also getting the community in. And they wanted a dance class, but the woman that taught them the dance class before had doubled her prices, and we didn't have any. So I knew that one of our patrons taught dance at a local dance studio around the corner. So she came in and voluntarily, no charge whatsoever, taught us. I did staying alive, right? And they said, well, we want to perform this. And I said, okay, let's go in the library. And we took the boombox in the library, and we had everybody laughing, not maybe the reference staff, but everybody else laughing. And I get goosebumps when I think about it. The lady said, you guys are so amazing, and like you said, you want to not only get the insiders involved in the library, but you want to also get the public aware of this part of our population. She said, you guys are so amazing. If you come over to my dance studio, I will give you free lessons.
That's awesome.
And, yeah, whatever, sure, they're going to show up. No, they did.
Yeah.
And she's going to incorporate them in her recital in March.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah, that is really
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, it always feels really good to make that connection, either with the individuals or the groups as a whole. It's really special. Yeah. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for coming.
You have a question?
Have you ever encountered coaches that are not helpful or do practically nothing? And if so, like, how have you addressed that?
Yeah, I've had that come up. I've had some coaches that come and they'll just sit on their phone, or they'll kind of treat it like a babysitting service, which isn't helpful at all. But I think having the way that the room is set up with the different tables and having the different stations kind of encourages the group activity. And there used to be in our setup that we would have chairs around the outside of the room as well, and sometimes the coaches would kind of hang back there and be on their phones. So I stopped putting those chairs out, and then that forced them to have to sit at the tables with the participants and kind of be a part of what was happening. So that was really helpful, but I don't know. I think that's one we're still troubleshooting sometimes too.
I'm super lucky too, because everybody that I work with is like, let's try this next time. Let's do this. I'm like super stoked about everything. So
Yeah.
which is amazing.
Yeah, we are lucky that we have some really amazing coaches in our community as well that have been great.
You had a question?
Yeah, you mentioned that they have the choice if they want to go to library club or not. Do you have them do sign-ups beforehand, or just like the day of, or how does that work?
There's no sign-ups at all. It's just people just come. I guess when we started, we weren't sure how popular it was going to be, and it's big. Like, there's a lot of people there. We might have outgrown the space that we're in one of our locations. But I think that part of the self-selecting, there are some people who don't like to be around crowds, and even when it was smaller, they're a little bit hesitant. And there's one person in particular where she will come in and we'll talk about what we're doing, and she'll be in for like 5 minutes and then she'll leave. But I don't think signups aren't necessary. It's just interesting that you ask, because we've kind of almost outgrown one of the spaces. But I think it's good. Like, I think it's so nice that people can just drop in, and having that relationship with the coaches. Like, I email them on a regular basis too, so I know if and for the Next Chapter Book Club, I email everybody in Next Chapter Book Club every week, and so I know kind of who's going to show up. But people still don't do something else that day or whatever. Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit more about the Next Chapter Book Club and how it works? Is it actually reading a chapter book and you read one chapter each week? Or?
It is. It depends. The book that we did first was short stories. that was written specifically for this population. So yeah, we read one short story a week, and then generally you read one chapter. Right now we're reading a chapter book, and we read one chapter a week.
And you don't take the book home. You just read it together there during the club. So that's different, but I think that works better, definitely.
Yeah.
What type of titles are there? Is it different age, range, genres? Like what exactly, or is it just a set?
We choose them. Right now we're reading a Goosebumps book because it was just Halloween, based on what people want to do, pretty much. But there's a lot of part of the Next Chapter Book Club community is there's forums, and so there's a lot of discussion about what books are popular and are not popular, and a lot of trading of books too.
Do either of you have previous experience working with people with special needs, or
I
No,
don't.
I don't.
any other staff that work with you? Because it truly does take someone that has a lot of
Yeah.
patience and understanding to work with these populations.
Our librarian Lisa, who's here, has a little knowledge and experience, so she was definitely helpful in sharing some of her knowledge with us. But we started from scratch. We have an organization locally called Terry, and I think it's one of our friends has a family member that was involved, so she kind of connected us with them, and we asked her to come do some information sessions and kind of help us understand better how we could be helpful, what would make sense for us to do. And that was really helpful. And we created a training for some of our volunteers as well who are helping with the program. And we did that for a while. So that was kind of our crash course.
And it's a
before
lot of what
jumping
we
in.
said today. It was in that training.
Yeah, that's
Like
true.
just the repeating instructions, changing if you need to, being okay with change.
Yeah. Any other questions? Yeah.
Have you thought about doing it like with school age kids? Where I work with my branch, there's a lot of adults that come with intellectual disabilities, and we have some programs for them. But lately we've had like middle school, high school students that come. We've done class visits, but I think it would be really cool to incorporate like something for that age group. Or like if you have any experience with that, or I mean, contacting the schools, like we've had school visits, but just like, I mean, you don't want to exclude people, but if they might feel more comfortable, like within their small groups, or like, yeah.
We haven't.
Yeah, we don't have experience with that. We just do the adult program for our adult services department. But it's true, we do see kids in the library as well. But I think reaching out to the schools is a good idea. I think that's a good place to start.
When we were looking to, sorry, I'm interrupting,
go.
but when we were looking, like when Natalie originally asked about programming, we were looking for different organizations. A lot of like support groups and stuff that we could find on Meetup were for school-age children, and so like we found some like type of things that might be available. I don't know if they would be available in your area, but were already in existence in our area.
Just to speak to that point, I work at Sacramento Public Library. One of the things we started doing even before we started doing Library Insiders was we had sensory story times at certain branches and sensory movies, and they definitely kind of focused more on the autistic community because we had staff members who were very well versed in and already insiders themselves in that community. But it is something that does kind of focus more on the kids rather than the adults. Not that the adults aren't welcome, but it definitely, it's story time and family movies, in which tends to resonate with families with children. And then the only kind of parameters for it, really, in terms of who should come, is making sure that people, that they know that it's for people who are developmentally at a certain stage, and or that have sensory-based issues. So, like, they'll have higher lighting at the movie, or more more ambient noise is okay during the movie. Nobody's gonna shush you for talking during the movie. And the sensory story times are really meant to have more tactile interaction. And so those are some examples. And I mean, if you want, I can give you my business card and I can connect you with the people in my library who are doing that.
Lisa, the children's librarian that's sitting right in front of you, does it at our library too. If you guys can work together.
And we even have high school level students that come and help out at the library on a regular or twice weekly basis. They come and
Thanks, Lisa. Yeah.
How far in advance do you plan your activities, and do your participants know in advance what the activity is going to be, or is it they show up and then it's kind of announced?
We fly by the seat of our pants.
We rotate though, pretty
But
well.
yeah, we rotate, and sometimes too, when I feel like I'm running out of ideas, I'll ask them what they want to do. Especially if I'm like, no, next time's a craft session. Is there something you guys want to do? Like Halloween's coming up. Are there any Halloween crafts, or what games are you guys in the mood to play? And that gets them excited about coming back too. So, but yeah, it's pretty informal. Planning's pretty informal. Any other questions? No. Thank you, everyone, for coming.
Yeah, thank you.
Let us know if you have any other questions. Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. You say it.
Please be sure to fill out your survey. Then you can leave them right on your way out. There's a little dish, I think. Thank you.